Please welcome Skift Head of Research, Seth Borko.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hey, welcome back. How was the coffee break? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Seth Borko. I am the head of Skift Research. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is my favorite day of the year, the Skift Global Forum. We're so happy you could be here today. So I'm about to host a panel with some really sharp travel industry leaders about AI, artificial intelligence, what it means for travel. I want to start off, though, by just taking 5 minutes, and then we'll get to the panel, we'll get to the meat of the topic. But I want to start off with just some slides and introduce some context. Because my team, the Skift Research team, we've collaborated with McKinsey & Co. to launch a new report, which we're really excited about. Are the slides showing up behind? But the slides will come up any minute now. But the point is that this report is called Remapping Travel with Agentic AI. It is a totally free report. You can go ahead and we'll have a QR code behind me in just a second, but you can go ahead, scan the QR code, download the report, and learn. Oh, it's on the side monitors. So use the side monitors, you can see it, and learn about it. We've been working with McKinsey for 6 years now. So this is my favorite report of the year. It's this great collaboration that we do between Skift Research and McKinsey & Co. Every single year we brainstorm, we say, what is like the most important topic that matters the most for the travel industry? And this year, we really thought that it was artificial intelligence, and specifically the promise of agentic AI. So again, this is a free report. I encourage you to scan that QR code and download it. I want to share a little bit of what we learned from this report. Why are we talking about AI? Why are your investors asking you about AI? Why is your board asking you about AI? Why is we talking about here at the Global Forum? And yes, there is a push to adopt AI, but there's also a huge pull factor that's happening here because consumer adoption is really leading the trend here. This is a survey we did, 1,000 US travelers. 30% of them told us that they use AI extensively for trip planning. And that is more than double the usage rates that we saw just 1 year ago. So in 1 year, extensive use of AI for trip planning has more than doubled. We can extrapolate that trend. We think it's going to continue. And so there is an urgency for the travel industry to keep up with these evolutions in AI. And here's the good news. What we're seeing is generative AI use. That's what this chart we're looking at here is, the use of generative AI or agentic AI. And what we see is that when we talk to industry executives, we talk to 90 lead and travel executives for this research report who really know this space, who have in-depth touch points onto their company's tech future. And what they told us, 90% of companies we spoke to had launched a generative AI project in the last few years, which is incredibly impressive. 90%. Over a fifth of travel companies have a generative AI product at scale deployed either internally or externally. But when we look to the future, when we look to agentic AI, we see something a little bit different. We haven't seen a ton of agentic AI deployed at scale, but what we learned was over half of travel executives that we spoke to, they are experimenting with this technology. They've either started to scale it in limited use cases or they have these experiments in the lab. So we've got this generative AI explosion. We've got this agentic AI in the lab. Sometimes it feels a little bit like whiplash. You know, you feel a little bad for the CTOs of some of these companies. Just when they think they've got these generative AI tools, all of a sudden, wait, what are we doing on agentic? But hey, that's what they get paid. That's what they get paid the big bucks for. It is really important that, joking aside and that meme aside, it's really important that we stay current and timely with what's happening in artificial intelligence. Again, this is some survey work we did. More than half of customers, consumers, and travelers told us that they want to work with travel companies that are adopting and experimenting with advanced AI tools. This is a mandate from the marketplace. And so it's moving fast. It's still in its early days, but there's a lot of excitement. And it will, to Rafit's point at the beginning of this conference, when we think to 2030, this is the sort of technology that will give us that permission slip to operate in 2030. So I'm going to wrap up. We're going to get the experts on stage. But before that happens, the report is called Remapping the Travel Industry for Agentic AI. Why do we use the word remapping? I like to think of that context of a map, of the travel industry as a map. We are a global industry, after all, right? We have customers and partners and staff and employees all over the world, and we need to use that map to navigate how we're going to connect those pieces, how we're going to get everything to work together, how we're going to understand where we're going in the future. And we think in this research, we talk about how AI agents are going to work together with generative AI tools, together with legacy systems and infrastructure to help remap and understand that map better and navigate all those different components of the travel industry and bring them together so that we can offer travelers better experiences, we can offer our partners, suppliers, vendors better connectivity, and so we can offer our staff and the people who work with us improved productivity. So we are very excited about this topic of agentic. We're going to have, again, I'm going to reintroduce the report. You can, again, scan that QR code. But for the real expert, for the real meat of the session, I want to welcome our lovely expert panelists on stage to come join me. So please, come join us.
Please
welcome. Yeah, let's give a round of applause.
Vice President and Chief Revenue and Technology Officer for Marriott International, Drew Pinto. Senior Partner at McKinsey & Company, Kelly Ungerman. And the CEO of Kayak, Steve Hafner. In conversation with Skift Head of Research, Seth Borko.
Drew, Kelly, Steve, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for being here.
Of course, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I want to jump right into it. This is such a huge topic, agentic AI. I have on my notes, the first topic is literally, what is agentic AI? We want to talk about that. Drew, I want to start with you. You're the Chief Technology Officer for Marriott. That's a pretty big company. You guys sell a couple of hotels.
Yeah, a little bit.
And you've done all this generative AI stuff. Now we're talking about agentic. Do you feel whiplash, the move from generative to?
I do a little. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone. Secondly, I love the venue, but let's get you in a Marriott hotel next year. So we'll.
Yeah.
Sorry, part of my job is sales, so I got to do it. Yes, I would say we're very excited about it. Agentic. We think it's in the early days, and it feels like a similar situation to way back when, so long ago, about 18 months to 2 years ago, when Gen AI exploded, and we're approaching it the same way. So what we've done at Marriott is we spent the first year or so really in an experimentation and learning phase around Gen AI. And when I look at that in retrospect, I'm really happy that we did that because things have changed so much. We didn't place any really big, irreversible bets in that area, but we learned quite a bit. And so on the Gen AI side, now we've become much more disciplined and structured. We have a few key use cases that we're working on that we're going to scale to the company. So we're working on that, working on our infrastructure too. Then along comes Agentic, which we weren't even really talking about, say, at the beginning of the year in any great depth. But now we're looking at that and in the same way using the same framework. So I'm really excited about it. I have the same concerns and obstacles that you documented in the report so well. But we're really excited about it, but we're going to take that same approach. We're going to do a lot of experimentation and learning. We're going to see what works, and then we're going to build it in a way so that we can use all the best tools that are out there and really adapt as things go.
And Steve, you're head of Kayak. That's a technology company. You're a technology CEO.
I hope so.
What does agentic AI mean to you? What's from a technology perspective?
Yeah, I mean, agentic AI is just software that does stuff for you, right? So, pretty simple definition. At Kayak, we've always done a really good job comparing prices and availability across multiple sites, but we didn't do a good job of when you actually wanted to buy. You actually had to go to another website to complete your purchase. So for us, we're really excited about agentic AI because maybe we can actually help you buy that on Kayak without leaving the Kayak experience. And then the next frontier for us is actually, after you've bought, can we help you while you're in trip make modifications to that itinerary and just talk to the supplier systems like yours, Drew,
Yep.
Without having to leave the Kayak experience. So we're thrilled by it. We've launched new products that have agentic AI built into it, like Kayak AI. I'm doing a plug just like you did a plug. Check it out. But it's really early days, and one thing we have learned so far is just because we built it doesn't mean consumers are going to use it. So quick show of hands, how many people use ChatGPT and other LLMs? Everybody, right? How many of you have bought anything from those platforms?
We'll grab them later.
Oh,
Yeah.
Two, yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
So until that behavior changes and you actually buy through these platforms, it's the point of transaction where the money flows actually goes. So we got to get people to get agentic AI through a transaction or purchase event.
And Kelly, you lead McKinsey's travel practice. You talk to all these companies. Is agentic the real deal? And in your conversations, is there a lot of urgency around this? What's happening?
I mean, it's probably no mistake that I'm sitting between these two, and I actually think there is a healthy tension between the promise and excitement of AI and agentic and a little bit of the skepticism of, gosh, is this yet another hype cycle? We had traditional and analytical AI, then we had Gen AI, now we have agentic, and everyone said Gen AI was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. You showed some of the numbers. The promise is there, but we talk about this Gen AI paradox where 80% of companies are using it in at least one domain. By the way, that's up from 55% a year ago. But the same number are also saying, gosh, I haven't seen any real material economic benefit flow through to my P&L. So, some will say, I can't take credit for this quote, but AI is everywhere except in the P&L. Now, I do think we are at a bit of an inflection point with agentic, and for a couple reasons. One is the technology, as you all know, is fundamentally different. If Gen AI was about content creation and being an assistant, agentic is fundamentally about being more autonomous, allowing you to execute full end-to-end tasks. So it's a real operator, right? And that we think will unlock potentially more economic value, and it allows you to. It's not the reactive. I've got to wait for the human prompt and direction. It actually does autonomously take into account, the context, changes in that environment, et cetera, and acts pretty autonomously. So for that, we're pretty excited about it.
I mean, you talk about ROI, and you have these conversations shown up everywhere, but I love that line, everywhere but the P&L. I mean, what are the areas and opportunities where you think that we're going to see ROI? Like, where's it going to happen first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll use an example from McKinsey, and no surprise that we are a pretty big global consumer of travel and hospitality services, and many of you in the room. We actually, and it's only a few months into it, but we're pretty excited about the promise of it. We started using an agent-based travel booking tool, and I was talking to a colleague a few weeks ago, and they said, hey, I was able to book 14 flights in 6 minutes across 2 months of travel, which is huge. And right now we've got about 20% of our bookings going through this tool. We've got a plan to get to 80% on average. Each booking, we're saving about 15 to 30 minutes. So you scale that across 40,000 employees globally, and the potential is pretty significant.
So 1 in 5 of McKinsey's travel bookings are going through these. Wow, that's pretty.
In a few months.
In a few.
Yeah, that one's scaled pretty quickly.
That's awesome. I mean, this is a great segue. I actually want to talk about lessons from the front lines. This is a group that's on the cutting edge. Steve, Kayak.ai. You have a fully functional AI-powered front end for your platform. We've got a whole room of people who want to know about AI roadmaps, how they implement AI. What have you learned from that implementation?
Yeah, so we put together a small team of folks. We partnered with ChatGPT, and we just said, let's reimagine Kayak if we were going to build it from scratch today. What would it look like? And that became Kayak AI. So it's a full chat interface, and what we try to do is take a query, whatever query a consumer can put into it. We submit it to ChatGPT at the same time we submit it to our own LLM, and then we try to discern what's the best answer to give back. And again, we're a search engine, so what we try to do is sense out of the semantics, is there a relevant query that we can create? And are there real-time prices and availability that we can deliver versus just cached information? And so far, it's early days, but we're pretty amazed by the breadth of the questions coming in that you'd never think someone would go to Kayak to ask. And as those features get more refined and better, we will graduate them to kayak.com. So you're going to see actual natural language processing, a free-form search box, if you will, on Kayak within the next 2 weeks, which is, I think we'll be the first travel site to do that at any scale. And we're very keen to see how it rolls out. But again, back to what I said earlier, until we can get transactions through the chat function, all it is on terms of our P&L is a cost item, because the compute is real.
Yeah.
What are the most surprising searches that you weren't expecting?
I never thought people would come to Kayak and ask for weather. But they're doing that. It's just a strange thing. And then we get a lot of upper funnel queries that we can devise itineraries. But honestly, the simple stuff that we can convert to a search that we like, and matching that to the data set is great, especially for hotels.
Yeah.
It's great for hotels. You can say pet-friendly hotel, pool, steps from the beach, family of 5, adjoining rooms. You cannot do that query on traditional Kayak, but you can do that query on Kayak AI and get a result set.
Yeah.
Drew,
yeah.
you have that on Marriott Homes and Villas too now, right? Something similar?
Yeah, I was going to jump in because our learnings have been so similar to Steve's. So we've been running natural language search on our Homes and Villas site for, it was supposed to be a test where it was going to be quick, but we've been running it now for over a year because we're getting so many learnings from it. And before we scale it, we want to make sure that we understand this. And very similar. Number one, though, is I think you call it the tyranny of the search box.
I did.
So people go in and natural language search, and then they do a search that looks like a traditional one. So I need to go to New York, and here are my dates. And it's like, okay, you didn't really need to use natural language search for that. So we're almost like training the consumer with prompts or like, here are the things you can find. That's been one thing. But the other thing has been they are coming to interact with Marriott because they have a question. And some of those questions are about a stay they've already booked, pre-arrival planning, hotel information. It goes well beyond, hey, I want to come in and I want to make a booking. So that's why part of the reason we've been testing this is because we're learning all this and we're going to think broader than just, hey, I want to come and book a hotel room on our site. It's more opportunity for a customer engagement type of platform. And so we're going to expand it because that's what the customer is telling us they want.
It's kind of funny. It feels like we almost have to untrain people because I remember you have to train like your parents or your grandparents to use Google. No, you can't ask Google a full sentence question. But now we want to do the opposite. Yeah,
we've done it for and look, part of it too is there are still a big percentage of searches or demand that come in, and you know where you want to go, and you know what your dates are. You may know what hotel, and we actually get a lot of positive feedback from our customers of we've made that booking flow as quick and efficient as possible with the current technology. We'll keep doing it to make it so if you know where you want to go, you can book it like that. But it's for those other cases, like Steve, you were just talking about. You want to be inspired. You want to find what's out in the market. There's a lot of capability AI can do, and people are going to have to get used to it as well as us internally as we try to work on our content and present that.
So this is a bit of a roundtable question for everyone. But travel, we know there's enthusiasm. We've got these tests at scale. We've got these generative tools. We're interested in agentic, but travel sometimes doesn't have a reputation as like tip of the spear, cutting edge. And I want to ask why we think that is and what we need to do to embrace some of this technology. And if it's okay if I can start with you, Kelly. Like, what does it take for a travel company to be an AI leader, in your opinion?
I think if you unpack that question a bit, and I don't mean to be the cliched consultant of it depends, but it does depend. And I would say it depends on the type of domain and use case you're talking about. I would say in the context of more horizontal use cases where it's the co-pilots, the chatbots, et cetera, those are largely universal. They're also pretty undifferentiated. 70% of Fortune 500 consumers or companies are using them. But you don't get a whole lot of economic benefit out of them. Some people would also say the beneficiaries of those kind of use cases have been the dogs because they get 15 to 20 more minutes of productivity where you're actually going out and walking your dogs. We actually, if you flip it, we believe the real value is going to be in the vertical use cases, but not just automating the same domain, but actually fully reimagining it. So if it's procurement or contact center, actually fundamentally rethinking how those operations work. Contact center, we're actually pretty bullish, and we think that's a rare one where you can get a bit of a triple win, where it's lower cost, lower handle time, and the ones that are doing it at scale are seeing 20 to 30% reduction in time in first call resolution. Better upsell, right? Because you can ingest a bunch of first-party, third-party data to do upsell, cross-sell, next best action, and then, frankly, better experience. I think we've all had a lot of, frustrating IVR, outdated call center experiences.
That is a funny thing. What if the AI makes a mistake? People make mistakes. It's not about whether it's going to make a mistake. It's whether it's going to make.
You want to be careful about the hallucinations, and that's why there's still usually some human in the loop, but yes.
What do you think about that, Drew, about what does it take to be an innovator in travel?
I'm going to kind of lean on my ex-consultant training. I was a consultant 20 years ago. I'm also going to say it depends.
I've got 1 year too.
They're all ex-consultants.
Ex-consultant? Wow.
Can I use it? No, that's probably too long. It's been way too long. On the consumer side, we need to be where the consumer is. So if they're asking for this or we're predicting that that's what it's going to take for them to choose us, then we, of course, need to be there. So that may not be leading edge, but it certainly will be current with the times. I would say for some of the other applications, particularly for Agentic, which a lot of that would be like internal facing, helping our associates, in the company. I would say on that one, we want to be with the times. We're also going to be very deliberate. So we have 800,000 people that work for us in over 140 countries. 90% of our employees work at the hotel. We want to make sure that we are being very careful and really making sure that everything from the responsibility around it to data protection to the impact on the associates, that we're doing it right. So on Agentic, I would say, I don't know if our strategy is going to be the very first one out there placing big bets, but we certainly are going to be experimenting and trying things to make sure that it helps our associates do their jobs.
And I'll put a pin on that human piece. I'm going to come back to that in just a second, but I want to give Steve a chance to answer that similar question about culture of innovation in travel.
Yeah, look, I reject the notion that travel isn't
There we go.
an
Yeah, reject the
innovative
premise
space,
a little bit.
actually. It's easy for me because I don't have to run hotels or fly planes. We just focus on the consumer experience. But if you listen to any of the presentations by the big LLM players like ChatGPT and Google, they all talk about travel use cases and dining use cases. And that's because they recognize the complexity of the purchase occasion and all the planning that goes around usually a pretty big expenditure item. And I think we're all doing a very good job in the background, not consumer facing yet, of fixing that. So I hate talking to people to get stuff done. I presume everyone in the audience feels the same. I like talking to AI IVRs, right? Restaurants, calling a restaurant and talking to a person to make a reservation is the stupidest thing ever. OpenTable, which is one of our sister companies, is automating all that. So when you call a restaurant, you're talking to AI now, and the restaurateur can pick the accent, the tone, how efficient they want to be. That's happening at our sister companies for customer service too, and that's for sure going to happen with you guys.
Absolutely.
So I think we can automate all that stuff. Now what we need to do is we need to bring it to the forefront of our sites where consumers are interacting with us, and get away from pre-filled search forms, and that's starting to happen now. At Kayak, that'll happen in a couple of weeks. And then the next iteration will be modifying your trip, right? So right now, if you have to cancel a trip and you've booked at 3 different places, it's a pain in the ass to fix that. I think with Agentic AI, if all our systems talk to each other, we can fix that too and take a lot of that worry out.
Remapping the industry, one might say.
Remapping the industry, one might say, if you were trying to coin something.
We've got an audience question here, and I had a similar thought. The audience question: Agentic AI will unlock more value and free up time for your hospitality talent. What are your thoughts on the human-to-human interactions that they could engage in? This is such an important thing. Everyone says AI is going to be great, and they say, but I'm going to lose my job. What does it mean for me? I'm going to go to you first on this, Kelly. What is AI, agentic, generative, all AI in general? What does it mean for the people in the travel industry?
I'd answer that from 2 perspectives. First of all, I think those that are, only use AI, of course, you never would in the hospitality industry. But I think the real differentiator is doing it in a human-led way, right? And if you take the employee side of the equation, actually taking a lot of the routine tasks, the mundane stuff that, by the way, probably doesn't give them a lot of joy, and automating that so they can actually get back to the craft and why a lot of them actually join the hospitality industry to begin with. So, that does take, some looking for some of those domains where you can create that reinvestment capacity and then kind of reinvest it in better experiences for customers and employees. But I think that's where you're going to see the unlock, is those that actually use it to amplify, not, replace the human.
And Drew, Marriott, you have, thousands, millions of associates. How many associates? Huge number of associates.
800,000, yeah.
What is that conversation? As you're putting out all this technology, what is that? How much feedback do you get from associates, and what is that conversation like?
Yeah, so they're really at the center of everything that we're doing. So we have a saying, it's nothing too elaborate, but human-centered, tech-enabled, because that keeps us grounded, right? So at the end of the day, the product that we sell to all of you and to everyone is a human interaction. It's staying in one of our hotels and experiencing our brands, and the people are the most important part of that. So we have a strategy of, we want to use AI tools to assist, not to eliminate or replace, because we do see, exactly as Kelly, you were just saying, yes, our associates want to help the guest, they spend a lot of their time doing things that aren't guest-facing. So I'll give you a real-life example of something we're about to launch. We built an auto room assignment feature, which basically does the pre-arrival planning. What you don't see is that the associates at the hotels spend several hours the day before planning out where everyone's going to be placed in the hotel. So we have automated a lot of those steps to save them time. But what it does is it gives a recommendation. And then they have saved all this time, and now they can spend time making sure they agree with everything, making some adjustments, and then they go forward with it. That gives them time then on that current day to spend more time with guests, to resolve issues that might be at the hotel, a variety of things that they can do. That's where we want them spending their time. And by the way, you mentioned how are they included. They have co-designed this with us. We have several end user councils around the world. They're the ones who are designing the tools and telling us what will work and what won't. And they're the ones who are most eager to have the tools assist them because, like you just said, it's the last thing they want to be doing with their day. They want to be doing the stuff that they like and that the customer likes. And so that's our strategy kind of in a nutshell of what we're trying to do in every space that we have.
And we've got a couple of questions here that generally have to do with kind of top of the funnel. The rise of AI, entering the travel sector has become easier. Will major players like Google use AI agents? We've got one about AGI agents instead of pay-per-click search ads. They all kind of synthesize this idea of how will the kind of travel, search, discovery, and booking marketplace change with AI? Steve, I feel like you might have some thoughts on this. I mean, what is the future of OTAs and meta search? Like, what is that? Are you worried about being disintermediated by an agent? Let me start with that question directly.
No, I'm not. I mean, I pay a lot of attention to it, but I'm not worried about it. I mean, look, people's habits will still start at big search sites like Google and ChatGPT, but a lot of people are going direct to travel sites that they trust. I think Kayak will remain one of those. I think for smaller players who don't have great brand awareness or who rely on free search or free traffic from Google and others, they're not in a good spot. But what Google's doing right now is they are taking more and more of the queries and answering them, the low, the low monetization queries and answering them with snippets. And then they're taking all the free traffic that is high purchase intent and converting that to paid traffic. So it's very much
That
what
hurts.
Yeah,
That sucks.
Well, yeah, I mean it sucks for our P&L, but it doesn't suck for our relevancy. So the traffic that we used to get for free on Google, now we're actually having to pay for, right? And I think that's true of most brands. So I think Google's evolving towards a model, and ChatGPT at some point will as well. That's more Amazon-like, where every result is basically a sponsored result. You have to look hard to find a free result.
Do you guys think about GEO, like that optimizing for generative AI answers at all? Is that something that
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question on search, you're already seeing it in the numbers. Year to date, search is down 15%, right? So you have these AI tools that have become, the front door to the internet. There's a lot fewer source clicks, so you're already seeing that actually play out in the numbers. And yes, I do think there's going to need to be sort of a reskilling. If you take your question around like marketing, a lot of marketers are saying, how do I go from great SEO to AEO, right? And how do I optimize my content and more conversational, all of those things that allow the agents to find and surface and curate your content, which is a different skill set than SEO. So you are seeing a lot of that kind of reskilling.
Are you seeing bookings coming from AI tools at Marriott?
No, it's been minimal, but just like my colleagues here are talking about, we see it coming. We know how the market, that the market's changing, so we're very much plugged in on it. And we do have, I saw one of the questions like, do you have a strategy in this space? We do. To summarize it, it's the same as we've had with our channel strategy for a long time, which is about diversification, making sure that you're working with partners who can bring you, customers and traffic in places that you can't get to. At the same time, we want to keep our direct channels really strong. And if the customer is looking for this experience, in other sites, they also are going to look for it when they come to us. So we need to make sure that we deliver that. But my probably biggest point of emphasis, not that I have it all figured out, is as we're going through areas like this, is just to remain very flexible, right? And don't overcommit to anything. That's been our strategy, just because we don't know. We've added some new players into our channel distribution portfolio. We don't know how that's going to play out. Steve's poll of the room was a perfect example of that, are people really using these types of tools for commerce? It's coming. when and how and what's it going to look like, we're not 100% sure.
What, I mean, I like Roth's framing of, I mean, I better like it, he's the boss, but I like his framing of 2030. It feels Star Trek, like 2030 is insane. It's here in 5 years. I mean, it's basically, we can foresee it. I want to end this as a kind of roundtable question. Short answers here because we're out of time, but what does AI in travel in 2030 look like, Steve?
It's just a more a simpler booking and transaction process, and it's distributed everywhere.
Drew, what do you think it looks like?
I'm going to go a little different bent on the agentic piece. I think for agentic, I think it's going to be transformative for all companies' internal operations so that they can allocate capital to the places that drive the most benefit for them.
And Kelly, I want to give you the last word as we're wrapping up. 2030 AI, what's that future look like from your perspective?
I do think it's, it's transformative for consumers and travelers, and how does this actually allow you to realize the promise of travel, right? Great personalized experience and that kind of, human connection. And I would say the same on the, on the operator and the associate side. How do you, again, bring back the joy and humanity of what they do so they can actually make it better for the travelers as well? To me, that's the promise of all this.
Love it. I'm really excited. Can't wait to see how it all plays out. Drew, Kelly, Steve, thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in learning more, check out the report, scan the QR code, download that report, Remap and Travel. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.